Yeah,
So,
yeah,
for me, it's like I used to see all my tenants and I used to talk to them all the time and hang out with them and say, hey, and, that's a
Yeah.
pro and a con too, because then at sometimes they used to have my cell phone and they would call me directly when the property manager
Oh, yeah,
wasn't
when you have
doing
2,600
yes,
of them,
and
that
then I'm
doesn't
like,
work.
oh
Yeah.
no, wait a minute, this is not the way I could do it. So I
Lot of
needed to
pressure.
scale down on that a little bit because I got to a point where they
Yeah.
were calling me on the weekends or, and then I'm
Totally.
like, okay, wait a minute, you have to go through the proper protocols because I can't go fix your toilet.
Yeah.
I have an employee that's there doing that. So, but it's, for me, it's a nice satisfaction of being
Makes sense.
being able to have a place where people are living and being happy.
Now, for single-family homes, and then I want to talk about the economy a little bit because there's a stat that I'm curious if it'll affect real estate or if it's interconnected. But for single-family home, is there a certain like a $500,000 home area? Like, is there a certain number that you recommend starting?
Oh
or-
yeah, for sure. I would go to an area where there's a lot of businesses that have, like the hospitals, like, a lot
Okay.
of food, hospitality type of where people want to rent. Like, so
Got
like,
it.
for example, here in Miami Beach, you're not going to come and buy a home so that you could go rent it. These houses, the values of these properties are extremely high. So you're never going to cash flow. So you need to go to communities like, I don't know, Miami,
Maybe like,
Kendall,
Texas.
like,
Oh,
know,
Texas.
Oh yeah, Texas is. There's a lot of.
oh,
good
right
spots.
now Texas is hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now Texas is hot. But like in Miami,
Coral
you could go
Gables,
to
maybe?
Coral Gables
That's a
has
little
areas.
high.
It's a little high. You
Yeah.
would go like to Kendall,
Okay.
Hialeah, like those areas that people are going there to rent because it's an affordable, but they still have the the way of getting around and not and the commute are
Got
good,
it.
so you want to go to areas where the values of the house are maintaining its value, but they're not $1 million.
Got it.
You want to stay. I can't tell you a number because let's say you buy a
depends on
house
the
for
area.
800,
Yeah.
800,000. But if you're able to rent that house, for $8,000 a month, hell,
Yeah.
you're gonna. I'll buy that house.
Yeah.
So you got to see where you're gonna rent. What are the rents calling for in the area, and is it an area that people want to rent in?
Totally, yeah.
So those all just have different criterias that you have to look at in order to buy this single family home. You could buy a $100,000 home
Yeah,
and cash
that-
flow. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. So what do you think of this? I just thought about it. So I interviewed this guy maybe like 4 or 5 months ago, and I think their company's called Turnkey Properties or something. And what they do, they have these homes. It's more in like the Midwest and stuff, and they're like $100,000 homes, and they buy them and then they'll sell them to you. And then they find the renter and they do the property managing, and then you get the monthly. I can't remember what the monthly cash flow on it was, but either way, it was.
Yeah.
It's called turnkey. So
That's
they
the best.
It
That's
sounds
awesome.
like a good deal. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, this sounds cool.
Yeah, that's a cool deal. Yeah,
Okay.
and now those are so buying
Yeah.
like 4 or 5 in a same community.
Yeah.
You're set. If you
Okay.
could get $100,000 home and you're
Yeah.
finding somebody that's gonna get you the renter, and hell yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
it seemed almost like too good to be true. That's why I didn't like.
I'm gonna look them up.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, what? So I wanted to ask you about this. I just heard a stat the other day that 40% of the entire cash in the U.S., like U.S. dollars, has been printed in like the last 6 months or whatever because like in stimulus. So inflation is inevitable, I would imagine. Like, so
It has to.
what do you like, or I guess overall, what are your? Is that a similar as like a 2008 type of crisis? Like, what does that actually mean? Like that type, because isn't that going to be like a dramatic
It's-
inflation? Like
Of
that's
course,
crazy.
it's going to be a dramatic inflation, and what's happening with that is that we have inflation, but with the living, right?
Yeah.
But now employment is not getting the same inflation. You're
Oh,
seeing
yeah,
that
yeah.
these people, they're not getting increases because there's no business coming in, right? So
Mm-hmm.
all this COVID thing has killed mom and pops, corporations. It's killed everybody. It's not just one sector. It's killing everybody. So these individuals are not getting raises. So now you have inflation, but with no increases in your employment. So I don't know how they're going to cover that gap.
Yeah.
There's going to be a big gap between your living expenses and what you're bringing in as a salary.
Yeah.
What are we going to do with that? I don't know.
It's crazy.
It sounds
And
trouble.
Yeah,
trouble.
yeah, 40%. I was like, how much was circulating before? Like, that's
Yeah.
insane. Like, they literally just printed
Insane.
half of the supply in 6 months. Like,
Yeah,
that's
I don't
nuts.
know, and we're seeing it like with our rentals. We normally increase our rentals on a yearly basis, depending anywhere between 3 to like 7%.
Okay.
It all depends on the area. It all depends on the type of asset that you have. So this year we had 0 increases. Right, we kept everybody at the same rent because we're understanding of what's happening in this world, and we're not just going to go raise rents because we do this every year.